Really just once the symptoms clear?
Yeah, for me, it's my plan. Because everything was starting to go well, and I wanted to fight on that New Year's Eve card,
232. Yeah, I
December.
heard about that.
Yeah, December 29th, and then I went ahead and just got since I had some. I saw a doctor and I got some scans of my face. Most of my stuff was healing, but the lateral part of my orbit wasn't healed completely because it was such a big gap. And so it was like 75-80% healed. So they were saying I couldn't even get into like contact and sparring until December. And since my hand was messed up, so that's why I decided to, get hand surgery. And since I had some time still, so that was kind of, I might as well, because that's been bothering me for quite some time, actually. I've been getting cortisone shots before my last 3-4 fights, just to kind of get through the fight, but it's been getting significantly worse every time. So it really, I think just from throwing all the punches, it's just damaged my hand, and I had to get that taken care of. So this will be great when I actually do get back in there. I'll be 100% for once, like I was before I got into the UFC. And so I'm thinking, realistically, probably February to early March, unless there's a case I can get in there and fight towards the end of January or sometime February, or if it is as long as March, I would like to fight earlier. I know they always have a big Vegas card, like March 4th, March 3rd, March 4th. It's always, my birthday's March 4th, so I've wanted to get on that a few times. So I know that's right around there. So if I can't get one in by the end of January or sometime February, hopefully that card.
Ironically, my birthday is March 1st, and that's always my wife's birthday present to me is tickets to that show.
You actually go out there, huh?
Yeah, well, I live about an hour and a half from Vegas. I'm actually going to be buying my 232 tickets here in 2 weeks when they go on sale.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'm excited for that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the championship fight in your division that's going to be taking place in the beginning of December against Max Holloway and Brian Ortega.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a great fight. Those guys, they're pretty similar as far as height goes and range. But as everyone knows, Brian Ortega, he's a slick jiu-jitsu practitioner. But Max Holloway, man, he's just really good and elusive and tricky. So it's going to be, I don't know. I think on the feet for sure, I give it to Holloway just because he's really crafty. Ortega has that good boxing, but man, if it goes to the ground, it's it just depends. Even though Holloway has good jits, I don't know, Ortega's on another level. So if I had to pick who's going to win, I would go with Holloway. Just because he's on such a 9 or 10 fight winning streak now.
It's a 10 fight.
10 fight winning streak. He beat one of the top pound for pound guys, 2 times, and he's just on another level. But so I'm definitely going with Holloway. But you never know. You can't count out Ortega. He's on a 14 fight winning streak, and time and time again he it proves people wrong. So you can never count him out either. So it is going to be a good fight. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, and the one thing about Ortega, too, is he keeps getting better in the later rounds. He has, I think, some of the most third-round submissions in the UFC right now at this point in time.
Yep. Yeah. It seems like even when he's, things aren't going his way, he'll find a way to win in that last round.
Now, I know you're not talking about returning till March, so that kind of leaves a lot of possibilities of an opponent open. Now, we know outside of Chad Mendez and Darren Elkins, your teammates, is there anyone in the top 15 that you would like a shot at?
And really, if I could pick one, it'd be the champion. But no, not really. I don't know. I don't call people out. It's I'm always just curious to see what the UFC does. I just see who they want me to fight. I'm always curious because they'll call me and say they always give me one name. It's not like, hey, you have this, and this, like a choice between 3. I know they do that with some fighters, but usually with me, it's just, hey, will you fight this guy? Yes. And that's always been the answer. I kind of you can see just based on the rankings too, how you say I'm number 8. I was 4, then dropped to 6, and now since I've been inactive, I'm 8. So they manipulate the rankings. I'll see. I kind of have an idea who they'll want me to fight. Probably someone close to my ranking. But yeah, it's in the end of the day, it's up to them. And I've never said no to a fight, so probably not going to start when Sean gives me that call.
I personally love the idea of you against Cub Swanson.
I know I hear a lot of people saying that.
I think stylistically it would be great.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be a great fight, and I know now I'm coming into the top of the game. I could see me fighting Cub, and he's he's a legend of the sport. He's been in the game for a long time, and he's crafty and tricky too. You know what I mean? So it'd be definitely an exciting fight for me to fight someone that's been in there for so long. I hear people wanted me to fight Mirsad Bektik. I know he's fighting Moicano coming up here soon, and that'd be another challenging fight. So yeah, I'm really up for whatever.
Yeah, you got some young guns in that division coming up too, like Alexander Volkanovski. He's 11. Yeah. I mean, obviously your teammate Darren Elkins. You got Zabit.
Yeah, Zabit. Yeah, he's good. He's crafty. There's a lot of good guys coming up. I kind of want to see. I see a lot of people. They want me to fight Cub, that Alec or Volkanovski, Zabit, and Mirsad. I see people all the time like wanting us to fight. It's kind of funny. But, anyone in the UFC, even if they're not in the top 10, the top 15, any fight in the UFC is going to be a tough fight. Anyone can lose on any given day.
Totally.
And, but I'm always up for the challenge. I'm always up for a good fight.
Well, you're so heavy-handed, too. I mean, all it takes is one to take them out. We've seen that plenty of times before with you. So outside of Team Alpha Male, where else do you train at?
Typically it's just there, but I have my jiu-jitsu coach Felipe Brigio. He has his own little academy. It's in Sacramento. It's probably like 10 miles from Uriah's gym, Ultimate Fitness. So I go over there quite a bit. And then I've been going out to CSA out in Dublin to train with Coach Kieran. They have tons of world champions for kickboxing, Muay Thai. There's tons of fighters from all over the world that come and do camps in the country. Like even Cyborg, she's coming up and getting some training in with Kieran as well for her big fight against Amanda Nunes. And so so I'm just kind of bouncing around between those camps.
Now, you hear some fighters talk about they don't watch fights. Are you a fighter that does watch fights, or are you kind of stay away from it when you're not fighting?
No, I'm a huge fan of MMA just in general. Like that's kind of what got me into it. Before the UFC was mainstream, and before the UFC was mainstream, I was always watching fights with my best friend before the Ultimate Fighter came on, and at that time I used to always think like, man, I could beat these guys up. I could do this. But when I went to my first MMA practice, that's when it was truly humbling because I knew then I would have got killed back then. But yeah, no, I watch a lot of fights. I watch most of them unless I'm out doing something. But yeah, huge fan of the sport, and I even like to watch just people not only in my weight class because I could potentially fight them, but I like to watch. I have some favorite fighters, and I watch all of them, whether it be Bellator, the Pro Fight League, and UFC, of course.
Who are some of your favorite, maybe not well-known, but smaller-known fighters, I guess you could say?
Well, even just like, my favorite fighter, like, all time when I was, like, watching the sport was always, like, Matt Hughes, Tito Ortiz. I love the Diaz brothers, just, like, their style and how they fight. And then, it's hard, too. I have a lot of, just from being from Team Alpha Male and stuff, a lot of the guys,
yeah.
That's what I'm a fan of a lot of people on our team. It's that gets me really pumped up and excited to watch my teammates fight too, because because I know them and trained with them, and it's different too. Because like when they're fighting, I'm like watching the TV, moving around, slipping. But it's like, you know, I get more nervous for friends fighting than when I'm actually going in there.
Yeah, and Team Alpha Male is such top level of a fight camp. I mean, if you look over the top 15 on all different divisions in the UFC, you guys see your names everywhere. Like Cody's on top of his division. You got 3 of you guys in your own division. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are just stacked over there, and it's iron sharpens iron. Do you feel like you have grown as a fighter because you are there?
Yeah, of course. You know, I'm actually one of the, man, I've been there for a long time before even a ton of these guys come here. I'm from Sacramento, so I'm just fortunate enough that one of the best teams in the world is in my backyard. And I've been going to Uriah's gym since he opened the gym in 2006.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I'm like one of the originals there. But I went just because I was interested in fighting. I started taking classes, and then Uriah saw some potential in me, and he asked me if I was interested in fighting. I said, yeah, that's why I'm here. And so he invited me to some pro classes. I started, you know, taking those for a while, but then I got a scholarship to go wrestle. So I decided to get my, you know, get my degree, finish my education. I would get better at wrestling knowing that I'm going to fight. So then when I came back, I could pick up where I left off. And so I did that. I left in 2007, came back in 2010, and then picked up where I left off, got right back into the pro classes, and, you know, had an amateur fight. And I banged out 2 amateur fights real quick, and then went pro and just kind of went from there. But I even early in my career, I guess professional career, I had a bunch of injuries as well. So it kind of set me back for quite some time. Just with 2 hand injuries. I broke my hand in my first pro fight, had surgery. I came back. I was training for my second pro fight. And then my last sparring session, I broke the hand in the exact same place. And so I was out for another year. So I really didn't go on my little like streak until the end of 2013 is when I had my second pro fight. And then from there, I was just trying to fight as often as possible because I wanted to make a run at it. I was already, you know, older than a lot of these guys that were just kind of getting into it. Besides, like a lot of the guys that were in the UFC already, they were my age or just a year younger, and they're in the UFC, and I only have 1 pro fight. So it's like I knew for me it was I had to do something because it was UFC or nothing. I didn't want to fight in any other promotions, even though they're great promotions. It was just, you know, the UFC is the biggest platform to me, and that was my goal, and that's the only thing that I was set on. So I just went and fought as much as I could, and you know, a few times I almost got on the Ultimate Fighter. I almost got on twice. I almost got into the UFC once. You know, I was on a conference call with Uriah and Joe Silva at the time, and that's when the UFC came to Sacramento, but I was only 6-0 at the time, so they went with some other guy. And then it was just like, I was just thinking to myself, man, I'm never going to get in. And but I had to just keep going and going. And my thing was, like, if I lost the amateur fight, I was done fighting. I wasn't going to fight anymore, just because I think my first amateur fight, I was like 26, you know? So I was like, if I lose an amateur fight, and nothing against that, I tell all some of the younger guys hear me say that, and they're like, oh, well, I lost this. I'm like, no, but you guys, it's different because they're young getting into it. And I'm saying I'm like, you guys are lucky. If you're 19, 20 years old and these guys have a record of like 9-3, I'm like, that's awesome. I wish I was in that position. But when I have my first amateur fight when I'm 26 and then, you know, go pro, and then I'm out for 2 years, so I don't come back till I'm almost like 29 fighting professionally. I was like, if I lost one of those fights, I was done as a pro too, just because I knew it would take me forever to get back to the same position I was in, and then who knows if I even get in the UFC, you know. So it was a roller coaster of emotions, but it was just like, you know, everything always, you know, everything works out. It always does, and I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm kind of glad the path I went in. I've never had anything given to me, no handouts. Nothing's ever come easy to me, so it's going to be that much sweeter when I get to the top.
Definitely. Now, if you have any advice for any younger fighters, what would it be?
As far as that, just, you know, find a coach that knows what they're doing. If you're serious about fighting, go to a gym that, you know, has some of the top athletes, has, you know, world-class coaches and athletes, because, and I don't say this to be like, you know, not disrespectful or anything,